I know both. There are two Kapilajis here.
Right.
I am fine. I am fine.
So I think we have a very good, about 50 people have already joined us.
Yeah.
So, Namaskar, Sanbainu. It's so nice to see you all. And thank you very much for joining. But before we start, I think that, and it has been a sentiment from many friends, that we could perhaps keep 1 minute silence for paying the homage to the millions of the people who have lost their lives to this pandemic. And so uh, let's just pray for them by keeping a little silence. Thank you so much. Namaskar, Sanbainu, Your Excellencies, dear friends, and the captains of business and industry from India and Mongolia. I'm indeed most thankful to our partners, Mongolia-India Business Council, and the Ambassador of India to Mongolia for taking the initiative to organize today's very important webinar on exploring further the business and economic potential between our two great countries. MIICCIA Chamber is indeed thankful to you for all your efforts and support in organizing this event. Let me just give a one word about MIICCIA Chamber. This chamber in which we have been associated, the only main purpose is to identify opportunities for the Indian businesses as well as the foreign businesses in India. But that every chamber does. The one thing that we try to do in this chamber is try to become or act as a bridge between the industry and the government. And that is the reason that most of our board of advisors constitute either the former ambassadors or the former civil servants from different parts in India. And so that helps us reach out and convey the problems that industry faces off and on. And that's one role that we try to play. As far as India-Mongolia is concerned, and this is often said, that it is governed by 3 Ds. One is a democracy, dharma, and development partnership. And indeed, very true. And because they are the main pillars of our friendship and our relationship. I was in Mongolia in the early 90s during a very momentous period when Mongolia was trying to embrace democracy and get out of the Soviet era influence. Therefore, I was fortunate to have seen and witnessed the exceptional and indomitable spirit of our Mongolian brothers and sisters who fought for their rights and their hopes in the minus 60 degrees temperatures in a non-violent manner. I have witnessed at night the human chains that were created on Sukhabatar Square. Rest is history. I also remember when I opted to go to Mongolia from Bangladesh, my ambassador questioned my judgment. But apart from my exotic ideas about this beautiful land, which generally was shrouded in mystery for me at that time, I was very curious to work under the new ambassador, Rinpoche Venerable Kushak Bakulaji. I, as a diplomat, thought that as his deputy, it would provide me the kind of exposure that was impossible to get anywhere else. And it was indeed a most amazing experience. While Mongolia was going through the transition, they needed the symbols of love and religious beliefs, faith, and practices. That is the reason that Ambassador Bakula was loved by the Mongolians, virtually as a living god. I remember we used to have miles-long queues in front of our embassy for his darshan. What we achieved by that was further strengthening the bonds of love, tradition, Buddhism, history, and civilization, for which the contributions of Ambassador Bakula, who revived large number of monasteries in the country, is immense, will always be remembered. I also remember that whenever we sought an appointment with any of the leaders of that time, they were more than happy to enjoy the blessed company and the masterful diplomatic interaction with Ambassador Bakula. It provided us a tremendous P2P advantage. I remember the American and the British ambassador. That time, British ambassador used to be our neighbor, and we were on the main street. But I believe now the embassy building has been changed. Used to say that India has done a coup in Mongolia. Let me tell you, the first day of my arrival in Ulaanbaatar, and I cannot forget that, I arrived after 3 days by train from Hong Kong and Beijing. And after I paid my respect to the ambassador, my predecessor invited me for a lunch at his house. And around 3:30 p.m., he said, you know, there is a press conference, but no point going there. I said, what is this press conference about? He said, the trade minister is going to talk about the new trade policy, foreign trade policy. And it's starting at 4. I said, but why don't we go there? Let's have a look. So we rushed. We were the last people to go in, reaching, and then we saw the minister and others going in. And the minister saw and he introduced me, and minister welcomed me. The minister used to be Mr. P. Ochirba, who eventually became the president of the country. And since then, anytime we went and met, it was really an amazing. Of course, several visits, which is a normal in any relationship, that happened. I would like to extend my heartiest felicitations at this occasion to my Mongolian friends for electing a new president, who is a well-known politician, whom I met in Moscow the first time in 2010. So congratulations to His Excellency Ukhanajin Khurulsek on his election as President of the Mongolia. We also, I must tell you one more thing, that we used to have slots under the ITEC program, only 2 of them, for training in India. But within a very short time, and the kind of support that we got, the Ministry of External Affairs told us that it is an open-ended, use as many as you can. So that gave us a tremendous advantage, and the Mongolians a lot of opportunity to come to India and study, apart from what they were doing in the Buddhist colleges and undergoing various training programs in India. We also did not have any companies at that time who are working in Mongolia from India. But after a few months, for some World Bank project and for some local this thing, we were able to get a Simco International, which was a Birla Group company. That was the first company that came there at that time, and then many others followed. And one of their colleagues, Ajay Mathur, said that he might join us today, and that was the first time I had met him in Mongolia. Now, that was also, as I said earlier to Ambassador Singh, that this was the first line of credit to any country we gave outside of our neighborhood was to Mongolia. So we are not only spiritual neighbors, but we are strategic partners as well. And it was a very interesting time when the transition is not easy to live, but it is very satisfying when you are able to achieve something. And Mongolia was drafting its constitution. And at that time, we invited Chief Justice Bhagwati, after his retirement, and Justice Bhagwati came there for nearly a month, and he drafted the constitution, or helped draft the constitution, which was basically became the pioneer for future of a democratic Mongolia. I have not spoken about the trade and investment as a chamber president. I should be doing so, but simply because we have exceptionally brilliant and authoritative lineup of speakers who know the conditions much more than I would, and the areas in which India can collaborate and the Indian companies can find useful partnerships. As both our countries move towards an AI-driven industrial revolution 4.0, in my view, the possibilities are immense, from trade to tourism, to investment to technology, to capacity building, where we are yet to achieve our fullest potential. India is also going through its tremendous change and challenges and economic upheaval as well as revival. But it has launched many initiatives, Digital India, Innovative India, partnerships, where we can work together. And India, of course, as you know, has evolved into a vaccine hub of the world, as well as medicine pharmacies. Pharmaceuticals is one of the areas in which we have been cooperating, and I think we can work together in that field as well as internationally. There is a lot to do that. So I would only close by saying that ours is a relationship of hearts, and we are spiritual and strategic neighbors, to say the least. Friends, I would once again like to express my gratitude to His Excellency Ambassador Gonchik Gunbolt, a friend of over 3 decades, and my colleague, His Excellency Ambassador MP Singh, due to whose initiative we are able to forge a partnership with Mongolia India Business Council. And I have great pleasure in welcoming Mr. Gantoga Bolt, President and CEO of the MIBC. Now it is my honor to invite His Excellency Ambassador Gunbolt to give his views on how he perceives the future of India-Mongolia relationship and the opportunities that the Indian companies can avail. Ambassador Gunbolt, please.
Thank you, Your Excellency Ambassador Anil Tirugunayarji, and President of the Millennium India International Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, and Your Excellency Ambassador, my dear friend Mohinder Pal Singh, and Mr. Kantola Bol, President of Mongolia India Business Council, and my dear friends and brothers and sisters. Really, I'm pleased to see you all today. And I'm also delighted to be among operation and to share my views, humble views in this regard. It's also good to note between the council and chamber would signify our enthusiasm to further ramp up our collaborations in the months and years to come in the field of business and trade. Let me also try to describe what is Mongolia to my friends in India, and then my other colleagues would add if they find it necessary. Mongolia, it's one half of India in terms of territory, richly endowed with minerals, and its location is also unique, surrounded by big markets. To be precise, it's 1 kilometer higher than Delhi, roughly, and it has 200 plus sunny days and good endowed with renewable energy, including solar energy and wind energy and biogas, etc. So it's one of the shortest route binding Europe with Asia. Mongolia has animal husbandry-based raw materials like wool and cashmere and hides and skin, intestine, etc. It is articles are good in quality and affordable in cost. So it's again a huge market. Small population, comparatively well educated in terms of literacy and online technology, digital technology. And it's an amazing place. Once I refer to my friends that it's an amazing place. You will find the monks chant in Tibetan. The singers also perform in Italian in opera theaters. And middle-aged people converse in English and Russian. And a lot of people also speak in Chinese and Koreans because of endless of opera on multi India is our highest regard. India is considered as a Pavitra Jaga. Buddha Janambhumi is a sacred land of Lord Buddha. I believe that since the teachings of Lord Buddha prevailed on Mongolia, the Mongolians became familiar with India. In secret history, names of places in India is also thought-provoking, like Mongolpuri, Mongol culture and religion. So India is not required lengthy introduction in Mongolia. Everybody has a very soft corner in their heart. And since 1990, rightly pointed out Anilji, Mongolia embarked on the dual transition to market economy and transition to political democracy. In that sense, we are again similar to democracy of India. India is the largest democracy in the world, but we are maybe smallest in terms of size of population, but we are also democracy, enjoying and proud of our democracy. So we are facing challenges, numerous ones, but learning and doing at the same time. We enjoy excellent political relations and cooperation in other fields as well, cultural, educational, and many other fields. So with Government of India, we have started working on projects, some of them big one, some of them is equally important. Oil refinery, as Anilji mentioned, 1.23 billion USD, and like information, communication technology, cyber security, outsourcing and training centers, etc. And I would also like to recognize one of the veterans of Indian business industries, so with large projects, important projects, a lot of opportunities also coming up, business opportunities. So there are also discussions going on is like coking coal is imported by India from foreign markets. So does we, but we export. So why not? And recently, this week, we have also received the Government of India's formal approval towards proposal by one of Mongolian airlines to start so far. And yesterday, my government also agreed allowed to fly again charter flights, one more charter flights within this month. So that's incomplete if I not mention the Indian industry, restaurants and consultant services and businesses already made their presence 3 decades ago. I remember in 1990s, early 90s, bunch of people went there and reached dozen, if not more than that. So what is Mongolia? It's, as I mentioned, richly endowed with mineral resources, and its location is also very convenient. Convenient in sense entertainment industries, and Mongolians also import a lot of commodities which India is good and manufacturing. So in future, I think apart from mining, the exploration, geological survey, mapping, and land tracking of satellites could be also very good and rewarding areas of our collaborations. And then agriculture and agro-industry could be another area, because we also eager to export animal husbandry based raw and processed and Chennai also is still expressing interests and eager to import wool and hides, etc. from Mongolia. So time to time, we also help them to maintain contacts with their counterparts in Mongolia. And then infrastructure is also area where we can work mutually advantageous manner. In this regard, Kapilaji could also share his inputs and experience, because we are sparsely populated and almost half of India, huge territory, need infrastructure, and government is so another area where we can work, I think, is tourism and hospitality industries. The well over 200 million people in India is also can afford to visit where they like. They can also prepare to spend their times and disposable incomes. So Mongolia could be another area itinerary if we have regular flights. And Bollywood can make a shooting in Mongolia. That could also promote gradually, eventually, our tourism industries. So we have a few hotels, chain of hotels, which are not enough, but we are going to put into commission new airport. It's a huge profitable area in the future to come. So as I mentioned, IT industry, IT and communication could become very rewarding, because our commercial banks, banking security, and other safety services. Some of them also expressed interests, and we helped them to maintain contacts with their counterparts in India. Then nowadays, a lot of people also coming to India on medical purposes, transplantation organs and other essential medical helps and cares given in India. So we have good medical facilities and systems anyway, but still there is a necessity, and medical visitors a resource of our cradle of new knowledge. So a lot of young people also coming here to study, and monks also, monk students also doing their
Thank you, Excellency.
number of scholarships increased by 10 to study Buddhist philosophy. And under ITEC, short-term training is also there. So a lot of young, middle-aged people, mid-career people, professionals also come in. For instance, some 20 strong came to training last year for training. So we have a lot of opportunities. And in order to give time others to speak, I better to wrap up my talks. Thank you, Anil.
Thank you. Thank you, Excellency. You have very clearly outlined the whole gamut of possibilities and potential. And now I would request, but I request all the speakers to kindly commit to about 10 minutes so that we can have some Q&As in the end. So I would like to invite my friend Ambassador MP Singh. He's a very senior officer from the Foreign Ministry and has probably the richest experience uh, in taking care of the high-level visits in the Ministry of External Affairs. Probably has a record on that, and he's doing amazingly well in Mongolia. And the two ambassadors are really the driving force of this relationship. Ambassador Singh, floor is yours.
Thank you, Ambassador Trigunyat. I thank you for inviting us here to this webinar. Namaskar, good afternoon, Sanbeno to all of you. Greetings from this beautiful land of eternal blue sky and perpetual sunshine to all the participants who are attending this momentous event virtually today. I'm so glad to have this opportunity to connect with so many old friends and distinguished colleagues, as well as captains of Indian and Mongolian industry. Today, indeed, is a momentous day when we are on the cusp of signing a formal MOU between leading Indian Chamber of Commerce, Millennial India International Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, MIICCIA, and MIBC, Mongolia India Business Council. My warm greetings to Ambassador Trigunyat, President of MIICCIA, for a wonderful trip down the memory lane about Mongolia from the decades of 90s, and also taking the lead and setting in motion this institutional linkage, and in which he is ably supported by my old friend, Mr. Kapila. And I also take this opportunity to extend my welcome and thanks to Ambassador Gunbold, who joined us notwithstanding his busy schedule. So good to see Mr. Kapila, the CMD of ICTC and the oldest Indian company in Mongolia, Mr. Bansal, Chief Patron of MIBC, Gana, President of MIBC, Gunde, and of course, our special friend Batsin. He is a senior economist in the Central Bank of Mongolia and a beneficiary of ITEC program. And I thank all the team members of MIICCIA and MIBC, including their technical teams, for making this virtual meeting possible, notwithstanding ongoing challenges, circumstances of COVID environment. Much of what I wanted to say has been said, but I still reiterate, and I keep reiterating, that strong and unwavering ties between India and Mongolia are based on centuries-old historical and civilizational connect through Buddhism, as Ambassador Trigunyat and Ambassador Gunbold pointed out. But the horizon for India-Mongolia relations on the economic front is also bright and full of potential. We share warm and cordial relationship, a strong strategic partnership, one of the 5 countries with which Mongolia has strategic partnership, a multifaceted economic relationship which is rapidly expanding into the newer areas of collaboration and bringing more and more economic content into our relationship. And I genuinely hope that today's interaction will allow both the chambers to reflect on the emerging economic cooperation prospects and identify newer possibilities for collaborating in areas in their core strength in both the mining and non-mining sector. The fact that Mongolia was the recipient of first Indian line of credit back in 90s and currently is the recipient of India's single largest project of assistance in the world, which is of USD 1.236 billion for setting up of the first oil refinery in Mongolia, is a reaffirmation of the importance that India attaches to Mongolia as a part of its East policy. Uh, to share with some of you, once complete, this Mongol refinery will not only usher energy independence and facilitate about 75% of Mongolia's total energy needs and result in massive import savings, but would also afford fresh avenues for Indian industry and Indian businessmen. And oil is intrinsically impacts all the sectors of economy. Of course, I would be remiss if I failed to mention the other important developmental projects which are going on presently in Mongolia, like the establishment of USD 20 million Center of Excellence in IT in Ulaanbaatar, which is capable of training up to 5,000 IT professionals within Mongolia, according to Mongolian needs and curriculum. A cyber security training center, India-Mongolia Friendship School in prestigious Zaisan Hill area, training of 1,000 Mongolian English teachers, and coupled with the fact that there was a MOU was signed in agriculture, dairy, and animal husbandry sector, as Ambassador Gunbold pointed out, many possibilities, and a separate MOU on space and B2B MOUs signed during the visit of President Batulga to India in September 2019 in pharma and traditional medicine sectors, including higher education sectors, augurs well for India, and many of the Indian and Mongolian investors could look at these possibilities. I'm sure today's presentations and briefings will bridge asymmetry of information on investment opportunities and rules and regulations in each other's country. And this asymmetry would be built up by getting to know the newer opportunities. I can confirm, with some conviction that the present Mongolian government, led by Prime Minister Oyunerdin, attaches great importance to the development of Mongolian economy, and a particular focus has been given to agriculture and herders, and they have evolved an ambitious action plan for further developing and expanding non-mining sector of Mongolian economy while implementing the e-governance systems and digital platforms in the next 5 years, mostly with the support of Mongolia's third neighbors. I'm sure Batjin would explain shortly several new initiatives and incentives that are being evolved and adopted by Mongolia for attracting foreign investment into Mongolia. Even though Mongolian economy is predominantly mining driven, and the 3 Cs, copper, coal, and Kashmir, drive 3/4 of Mongolian economy, there is untapped potential and scope for expansion in the non-mining sectors. Coupled with the fact that the World Bank, ADB, Moody's, Fitch have all maintained B+ stable rating and predict economic growth in the range of 5 to 7% for Mongolia in the next 2 years are encouraging signs. Mongolia was removed from the FATF grey list last year, and all of its government bonds, Chingiz, Gereg, Khurildai, including the most recent Nomad bond launched in September 2020, have performed exceedingly well. They seem to reinforce the positive views about Mongolia and investment opportunities available there. As Ambassador Gunbold and Ambassador Trigunat pointed out, the recently concluded presidential elections will ensure much needed political and economic stability and continuity of the ruling MPP government policies for the country. And I can go on and on, but I would like to conclude by sharing the good news that Hunnu Air of Mongolia is expected to commence the first ever direct commercial flight between India and Mongolia later this year, which will not only boost people-to-people contact, but also promote tourism, some of the potential areas which Ambassador Gunbold pointed out between our 2 countries. The new airport, which is coming up on the 4th of July, will be another step in this right direction. So once again, I extend my warm wishes to all the participants and eagerly look forward to listening to their meaningful discussions and exchange of views, which will pave way for the further fostering of trade and commercial cooperation between India and Mongolia. So I thank you, Ambairla, to all the candidates. Over to you, Ambassador.
Thank you, Ambassador Singh. That was absolutely fabulous layout of the contours of the cooperation that might ensue in future and where Mongolia is going. And I fully agree with you that beyond the 3 C's that you mentioned, there is much more to do between our 2 countries. And I think that it is for the businesses to take advantage of the opportunities that are growing. I remember long back that James Baker III used to say that US is their 3rd partner. But I think that time has come that India acquires that privilege of being the 3rd partner of our Mongolian friends. Now it is my great pleasure to invite Honorable Gantulga Bold, who is the President and CEO of Mongolia India Business Council and our joint partner for this event. And he is basically, I think, a climate person, and this is so much needed today because he heads he has been on the Climate Green Investment Corporation and the board member of the R&D Center for Climate Change and Sustainable Development. That is so much needed, frankly, in the world today. That is the biggest priority. And all the countries, and India is also on the forefront of it, especially through its International Solar Alliance program and others. So I think we find a lot of common things, and we'll be able to learn a little more from him. And he is, of course, happens to be a nuclear physicist as well. I mean, that is interesting. I've been a physicist myself, not him that I studied physics long ago, even though forgotten now. So I would like to invite Mr. Bol to please take the floor and share his thoughts with us.
Thank you, Ambassador Anil Trigunait. Okay, greetings to everyone. The Ambassador MP Singh, Ambassador Gambold, Chairman and Managing Director, Mr. Kapila ICT, and Mr. Batching of Bank of Mongolia, and the distinguished guests and members of both the organizations. Well, I welcome to this virtual ceremony of signing of Memorandum of Understanding made between the Mongolia India Business Council and the Millennium India International Chamber, Commerce and Agriculture. Also would like to special thank to this President Ambassador Anil Trigunait for receiving our request to work on corporatively to develop the aspect of India and Mongolia, and also Ambassador Konchik Kambod for supporting Mongolia India Business Council and being here, and His Excellency Ambassador MP Singh for his selfless effort for Indo-Mongolian relationship and his involvement in the Mongolia India Business Council. Mongolia India Business Council is the non-governmental organization established in 2016, focusing on developing the economic and the business relation of 2 countries with services such as business forum, virtual expo, business consulting, business training, and market research to its member organizations. We have expanded our operation recently in that His Excellency Ambassador MP Singh has agreed to the chief to be the chief patron of MIICCIA since 2020. Okay, a little bit about Mongolia. The Mongolia is traditionally, we are agriculture country, mainly, namely livestock people. But it's worth noting that the Mongolian oil refinery is the biggest mega project that is taking the Mongolia-India relations into a new level and defining the strategic relationship between the 2 countries. Okay, let me mention a few numbers here. we have a 3.3 million population and over 70 million livestock, just over 1.5 million square meter land. And our urbanization, the urban population is 67.2%, and adult literacy is 98%, which is a very important factor for foreign businesses. Also, our GDP is over 13 billion USD. Per capita income is $40,000 approximately. Also, export and import of Mongolia in US billion-dollar figure, it's 4.48 versus 3.45. The main destination of the export-import is China, which is 88%. Secondly, UK, 3.82. Third, Singapore, 2%, and Switzerland, 1%, Russia, 1%. And about export-import with India is the highest was 2018 with a number of 20 million US dollar. And today in 2021, it's only 8 million US dollar. Okay, so I welcome all attendees for having successful enrollment to this fantastic knowledge upgradation session, and sincerely hope that you will make the best out of it by our active participation and thus implementation of the knowledge gained. Once again, thank you very much, and lots of best wishes to all the friends and business owners. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bold. Now we can sign the MOU even virtually, and I hope there'll be a day when we can welcome you here in India and formally sign, or we can visit you there.
Right. Okay.
Do the honors, Ambassador Tigniat and Ghana.
Yeah. Thank you, Master. Wow, this is.
Okay.
Give them a round of applause.
Thank you. Great pleasure. Thank you so much. And now for the attendees, I would like to say, now you have both the organizations and both the embassies at your disposal to explore the potential and carry forward the momentum of our trade and investment between our two countries. I would now like to invite an iconic person in Mr. K.K. Kapila, who has been a civil engineer and a fellow of the Institution of Engineers of India and the American Society of Civil Engineers. And I must say that apart from many of the hats that he has worn, he also continues to be CMD of the Intercontinental Consultants and Technocrats Private Limited, which is a pioneering organization in the infrastructure sector. And as per information, their company has been consistently rated as #1 consultant out of India in the infrastructure domain for the last 5 years by the by ADB. So I hope that companies can avail of their consultancy services or the guidance from Mr. Kapila and his colleagues, because that is what you will need when you want to understand about the real terrain. And he is a recipient of a number of national and international awards. Now, Mr. Kapila, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Anilji. Excellency Gunboldji, my dear friend and ambassador of Mongolia in India, Excellency Mahendra Singh Ji, another dear friend and ambassador of India and Mongolia. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
The others may please mute themselves.
Ambassador Anil Ji, former ambassador and Minister MIICCIA, Mr. Gantula Bol, President and CEO, Mongolia Indian Business Council, Mr. Natin Dorj, a senior economist, Central Bank of Mongolia, and other dignitaries, ladies and gentlemen. Ever since Ambassador Mahendra Singh Ji has taken over as Ambassador of India and Mongolia, the economic relationship has grown manifold. I salute him for making it happen. Let's give him a big hand. My relationship with Mongolia dates back to 91-92. This is when we were awarded the first ADB technical assistance project in Mongolia. This was the feasibility study and detailed engineering of Ulaanbaatar, Dharan, Atanbulag Road and preparation of road master plan for Mongolia. I landed in Ulaanbaatar in 1991 and had stayed at Ulaanbaatar Hotel. During this time, His Holiness Kush Bakula Ji was the Indian ambassador. He was the first Buddhist monk to become an ambassador. He was worshipped in Mongolia, and many of the honorable ministers of the government used to touch his feet and take his blessings. This was the warmth of relationship that we had and have continued to have.
We can't hear you. Mr. Kapila, please unmute yourself.
Am I audible, sir?
Yeah, now it's better. Yes, please.
Okay, I'll remove this. I think that is causing the problem. My apologies.
Please.
I fondly remember having visited the residence and having famous Indian samosas with Kusha Bakola ji. Mr. Negi was the third secretary in the Indian embassy. He had a lady doctor as his cook who had prepared the popular Indian pancakes called parantha for me. Such was the dignity of labor in Mongolia. A lady doctor, qualified doctor, would not hesitate to cook food. This is the value system which I really appreciate and admire. For a pure vegetarian like me, this indeed was a welcome boom, as I was finding it extremely difficult to manage during my first trip. For several years thereafter, I carried paranthas with me with some dry vegetables. This position became better once my staff was deployed on projects. During my visit in 1991, Mr. Bud was the DG Road Development, Mr. Gombo and Ms. Oyen Chubak, who later went to ADB, were his assistants. Fortunately for me, all three of them knew English, and that made my communication convenient, although I had hired interpreters, but I was not sure of the quality which was untested. Ever since we secured this project, I continued my stay at the UB Hotel. The UB Hotel became my second home. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll be surprised. I have spent over 2.5 years in that hotel since 91 till date. And that you can understand how much attachment one gets when you have such long stays in a country. If there was an option of taking up dual citizenship, I would have been a Mongolian citizen as well. These are some of my sentiments and wonderful feelings that I have always had for Mongolia. Let me now share with you briefly about the projects and works that we have undertaken in Mongolia. We have so far executed about 11 projects as ICT alone and 54 projects in association with our local subsidiary, ICT Sane Consulting LLC, which I founded in Mongolia in 2003. Way back in 2000-2001, when we were working on the Golden Quadrilateral of India, under the late Prime Minister Vajpayee ji, the then President of Mongolia visited India with a delegation which included the then Deputy Minister of Transport, Mr. Roland. The government of Mongolia had approached the government of India for a feasibility study of East-West corridor connecting China to Russia. The government of India unfortunately did not consider this request positively, which obviously hurt the sentiments of the Mongolian government. At this stage, ICT, which had already spent 10 years in the country, I felt duty bound to assist. As such, I offered our services for expatriate professionals, staff free of cost for the study. The government of Mongolia, however, provided the government.
Again, you are mute.
Kindly share the slide, sir. Permission, we can't show our slide. We are disabled to project a slide. Kindly allow us to do so.
Yeah, you're audible. You're audible.
I was bringing out that the government of India did not consider this request for a pre-feasibility study, and we felt, and the government, obviously government of Mongolia felt uncomfortable and hurt. At this stage, since we have already spent 10 years there, I felt duty bound to offer my services for expatriate professional staff free of cost for this study. The government of Mongolia, however, provided local staff inputs and logistic supports. The government of Mongolia has approved the Millennium Road project by this resolution number 204 on 27th December 2000. The resolution read like this: the government of Mongolia has approved the Millennium Road project by its resolution number 204 on 27th December 2000. The government of Mongolia was desirous to conduct the pre-feasibility study of the Millennium Road to provide a necessary and comprehensive techno-economic framework to this prestigious project. And Messrs. Intercontinental Consultants and Technocash Private Limited, briefly mentioned as ICT New Delhi, came forward to carry out the study at their own cost as a gesture of goodwill. The government of Mongolia and the consultants signed a memorandum of understanding to this effect on 23rd March 2001.
We got the access. Should we?
Ram बोल पढ़ दिया, उठा लो, हमने पढ़ी दिया content. I was showing you this resolution, just put it there, and which I have already brought out, but have a look at it so that each one of you can see it for yourself. The government of Mongolia provided local logistical support while ICT incurred a total cost of over $300,000 to conduct the study those days. The study, once completed, was very well received by a number of donor agencies who have been taking up segments of varied lengths from this study and completing those roads for detailed design, engineering, and construction. Today, about 90% of this alignment has been constructed in different phases as per the priorities of the government of Mongolia. In January 2003, when Mr. Enkbayar, the then Prime Minister of Mongolia, had visited India with a delegation of Mongolian entrepreneurs, ICT joined hands with one of the entrepreneurs from IT side called Sane Consulting. ICT was in its infancy those days. I felt, let me see how best I can help the sector to grow. And we signed an MOU with them and forged an association, signing an agreement forming a company on 15th of January 2003, known as ICT Sane Consulting, which is there till today, with almost 75 local staff and only one Indian who is also more a Mongolian to my mind, because he has spent more than 40 years now in Mongolia. A chap called Mr. Raghu Gautam, who is here attending with you people. The JV company continued to work for several years, taking up both infrastructure and IT related projects. Since IT was in its infancy, there was not enough work, and most works taken up by the joint venture were in infrastructure domain. Due to this, the JV partners parted ways on 30th April 2010, when Sane felt that they were a misfit with us, after which ICT Sane became a wholly owned subsidiary of ICT. I have a deep affection with the people of Mongolia, who are excellent human beings, very respectful, affectionate, and warm. I always felt and like that I wished I could have stayed a little longer every time I visited Mongolia. Such was the warmth of the people and government officials who were always willing to listen and act. I have also earned my fair share of medals and accolades from the people and government of Mongolia. I would like to strongly urge Indian entrepreneurs to try and join hands with the government of Mongolia and the entrepreneurs of Mongolia in the further development and enhancement of Mongolia. It has been my pleasure and privilege to be a part of this forum today and share my sentiments and experience of doing business in Mongolia. Namaskar. Thank you. Berla. Jai Hind.
Thank you, Kapilaji. It was really very nice, and you are an example, frankly, of persistent perseverance that yields the results and creates the kind of bridge that is required between Indian companies and the Mongolian landscape and the companies there. And you have done amazingly well. Congratulations to you, and that is extremely important. Now we have come to our last speaker, but not the least, one of the well-known senior economists of the Public Financial Education Center at the Bank of Mongolia, Mr. Badzin Nasak Dorj. And I believe that he has been also involved in, has studied in India or has been trained in India under the ITEC program. And so he definitely can throw much more light and, of course, perhaps explore the possibility of the fintech cooperation, especially with regard to regulatory practices between the two institutions from India and Mongolia. So I believe that you will be taking us down the memory lane as well as telling us about the opportunities available in the fintech sector. Mr. Badzin Nasak Dorj.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Trivani. His Excellency Mr. Konchakan Bolt, His Excellency Mr. Mointa Singh, and distinguished guest Controller Bolt, Mr. Kapila, and all the ladies and gentlemen. It's my honor to present and express some overview about Mongolian economy and opportunities in investment. I'm going to share slides from my side, and it's also, can you allow me from here? And also I send it through email. While this, actually, as Mr. Tugani said, I participated in 2018, and during this training, central bank training, it was great learning experience. So if it's possible, can you allow me to share screen from my side?
Yeah, Gaurav, please allow that quickly.
It's disabled now. Because I'm going to show you a few slides about current development of economy and future. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, I have made co-host, so he can do it from his channel.
Yep. Okay, as I mentioned, I'm senior economist of Public Financial Education Center of Bank of Mongolia, and I'm going to talk about briefly overview on the economic condition and investment opportunities. But of course, I cannot talk fully in this short time period, so please accept my apologies. So currently we have some good news about economy, because in 2020 we had trouble as same as other countries because of COVID-19, and the economy has increased 15.7%, is quite high in the first quarter of 2021. And policy rate is, of course, one of the important economic indicator. It's 6% currently, and Mr. Kantolak has mentioned quite many statistical information, so I'll move on. And currently, inflation rate is 5.5%, which is in line Bank of Mongolia's target. And foreign trade balance is 535 million USD. Balance payment is 245 million USD surplus in the first 4 months of 2021. And also the vaccination is good news for us, because we have vaccinated nearly more than half of the population. So, comparing to worldwide, it's quite high number. But of course, there is more things to do in long run. Showing this the GDP growth, economic growth. The reason why 15.7% generated is because in 2020 we had in the first quarter of 2020 we had 10.7% decrease, contraction. So of course this recovery is quite good, but showing this this baseline is coming from this high contraction. So this increased growth coming from, of course, in this economic term, from expenditure approach. Net export was most of the important reason this increase has been generated, because Mongolia has not been putting that much to the COVID-19. However, on the other side, there is still some support on the export side, and also there are many important development in the economy. And from the production approach, mainly mining and quarrying sector is generating this growth. Of course, Mongolia is a small and open economy, and it's connected with other countries, and mainly this economic growth coming from mining sector, as Mr. Kanto mentioned. And also manufacturing and tax has been generated this growth. As I mentioned, Mongolia is a small and open economy, and mainly many economic development coming from its exporting or strategic cooperation partnership countries. There are many countries we have trading, and of course, Republic of China has been most important importer of the country, exporter of the country on the side. During 2020, we had most of the country has contraction, and 2021 it's going to be better comparing to 2020, and we're going to recover. So it's important, good news, because in terms of commodity price, the 3C, our distinguished guest mentioned, 3C is a very important exporting coal, copper, and Kashmir. I'm showing this graph, three commodities that's been exporting, except Kashmir. There is blue line is copper, yellow line is coal, and red one is gold. But of course, apart from gold, copper, coal, there is trend of increase, upward trend. So it's good news for us if we have, continue to cooperate and sell our most important and exporting products. In this upward trend will be helping us to increase our potential. Yeah. And when the forecast or in outlook, the GDP is going to be grow. Of course, 15.7% won't be long-term growth. So we need to sustain this growth, but of course it will be reaching more nominal level. And 2021, we are expecting 6.1% growth, which is quite nominal number in Mongolia. In terms of inflation is going to be on target of Bank of Mongolia, so it won't be affecting this GDP growth that much. So moving to investment opportunities, Mongolia has quite relatively low taxation. We have expected quite good investment involved in terms of taxation. Apart from property and sales rights, there is no capital gain tax. There is no specific measure or taxation of capital gain. Because in terms of investment, dividend income is one of the important areas to focus, of course. There is 10% taxation for the dividend income. And in 2019, Mongolia has amended its general law on taxation, corporate income tax, VAT tax law, and personal income tax laws. So during this amendment, some of the taxation has reduced. For instance, a fee for 10% on the where there is specific term has been changed. There's 10% of the net tax has been shown. Gross value tax has been changed to net, so it will be more actual. So in terms of tax income provided non-residents, there's 5% decrease has been taken. It's now 15%, and furthermore, debt instruments as financial obtained from debt instrument lowered 10 to 5%, decrease of 5%. And of course, investors, comparing to some of the very capital controlled country, investors face quite less restriction in Mongolia, so the investor can come and go in their own decision. So they'll little restriction. Of course, there was no country without restriction, but in Mongolia it's very little. And the Mongolian judicial system offers some investor protection, but of course it needs to be developed further. Currently, you have investor protection in some level, and Mongolia does not discriminate for investors in comparing to other countries. So, but of course, there are some standards followed. For instance, foreign investors must invest minimum of 100,000 USD to establish venture. Foreign national companies may not own real estate or, of course, some of the land or immovable properties. But of course, there is another way to have invest in real estate or renewable property. For instance, in written this slide, foreign citizens, foreign entities can invest in a Mongolian company that has ownership of real estate or immovable properties. So it's one of the way to showing the good involvement for the investors. And also, His Excellency Singh mentioned Mongolia has no any economic bloc. There is no restriction, and also FATF agreed to remove Mongolia from its list of jurisdictions with strategic deficiencies. It's called Grey List, and Mongolia has been Grey List in 2019, and we have been opted in 2020. So it's in history of the FATF is quite short time period. And for the news for the investors who is going to participate in investment capital market or financial market, there is news for you. Banking law of Mongolia has been amended, and 5 systematically important banks has been required to become public companies. They need to become listed on the stock exchange and by the end of 2023. Not only that, commercial banks are required to reduce shareholder concentration. So one shareholder should have less than 20% of a specific bank. So it's opening investment opportunities to other people. And I have added this slide. I've seen people has been asking from what are the importing and exporting products in 2 countries. So I'm showing this from Mongolia's side. Mongolia exporting, of course, 2019 is a more realistic number because 2020 was there is a restriction. In 2019, it's showing more realistically. So in 2019, Mongolia has exported 1.15 million USD's products to India, specifically wool, animal, and herb wholesale, and these fertilizer, optical appeal, meat crotchet. These products has been exported to India from Mongolia. From the other side, India has been exporting comparing to Mongolia, quite large number, 37.14 million USD. And of course, most of the products are pharmaceutical products, sugar confectionery, machinery, electrical equipment. So it's showing that, of course, it's only few products that we have been trading, but there are more than these products. There are many opportunities to trade, and also in terms of policy, Mongolia has been moving from mining-based economy to other diversified economy, because in terms of this sustainability, we cannot focus only one sector. Therefore, from the policy side, we are moving from, of course, mining sector. Of course, mining sector will be ground for this movement, but we are moving other trading or other sector movement. So, of course, in order to, I've shown these opportunities, but of course there's some risk. Different risks should be mentioned, but currently, in terms of political risk, there is not much risk because from the political side, election won't be happen 2024. Till then, there is no specific different change. And also, of course, as I mentioned, there's other sectors should be supported from the policy. So we have been doing this. And also, exchange rate risk should be mentioned, because of course, investor should be focusing how can my investment can be changed, developed during their invested time period. So currently, I'm showing this exchange rate slide. Different graphs has been shown. For instance, this first graph showing this first 5 months 2021's exchange rate development against US dollar, different currencies against US dollar. Mongolia and Turkey has been quite stable during this period, like Indian rupee, but China has been appreciating against USD. In the other side, Japanese yuan, yen has been depreciating in USD. So in terms of last few months, actually last 2 years, Mongolian Turkey has been quite stable against US dollar, and showing this graph quite last 10 years change of the exchange rate, Mongolian Turkish exchange rate development against US dollar. So you can see in 2021 we have been quite stable. And this Turkish versus other currencies, you can see the figures. USD has been depreciating. It's not depreciating, it's stable. Yen against yuan, Mongolian Turkey has been appreciating 5.17%. It's minus means, as they say, appreciate against US dollar. Yeah. But of course, yuan, Chinese yuan has been appreciating against Turkic 1.4, 1.5%. The reason why this exchange rate has been stable is our international reserve has been increasing over the last 2 or 3 years, and it's reached 4.9 billion USD, which is highest in the record. We can supply or purchase 10%, 10 months import by this amount, and of course Bank of Mongolia and other institutions that are supporting this increase, because bonus payment, trade, other indicators are supporting this, and of course Bank of Mongolia itself has been purchasing gold and silver to support these trends. So this is the information trend or future outlook of the Bank of Mongolia from my side that I want to share. So I think it's been quite informative for you, and I hope you have questions from my side, and I wish you all the best for the cooperation, all the important future cooperation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bazin. It was very, very useful, and I'm sure that those who are looking to invest in the country will get the confidence that the economy is on the right track and that there is no political problem. We all know that it has been a smooth transition, one after the other. One of the statistics that you have given was very important. That is, A, the currency is rather stable. And the second is that 50% of Mongolians have been already vaccinated. And that is a record of sorts, I must say, among a lot of developing countries. It has been a major challenge. And I must compliment our Mongolian friends and the leadership for taking the lead in that direction. Now, I find that a large number of questions that were there in the chat boxes have actually been answered. But in case any of you wish to take any question from there, most of the questions have been answered. And I must compliment both the embassies and the Ambassador Singh, especially that he's sending responses in the chat box itself, apart from providing the contact details of the embassy. So in our chamber and the chamber, partner chamber, Mongolia and the Business Council, as well as both the missions at their disposal. Anytime you may connect with us, and we'll try to provide you whatever relevant information, or for that matter, the requirements that you have with regard to projects. Stay in touch, keep writing to the embassy at the same time, and we'll try our best to provide you the requisite information that you are seeking. And I find that most of the questions have been there, but please do send these queries directly also. And we have taken the note at the chamber, and I see that our friends from the MIICCIA have also noted down all the queries that have been put in here. So with that, I think that we have come to the end of this today's event. We have tried to finish it well in time, in about 1.5 hours. But as it was said by our friend Ambassador Gunbolt. We try to have it an annual event, and we will discuss it with our partners, MIBC, and both the ambassadors exactly how to proceed further in this regard. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank all the esteemed panelists, both the ambassadors and our partners, and Mr. Bhajan and Mr. Kapila for taking their time out today and to share the most comprehensive information that perhaps we could say. And I must compliment our colleagues also, business industry, who have shown so much interest, because today we had nearly had 70-75% people at any given time in the webinar, which on a working day is not that easy to find nowadays. So we will continue to remain in touch, and thank you once again, everyone. And we are indeed grateful to you for your presence, for your participation, and for your support. Stay in touch and stay safe. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bhajan.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gunde.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I'm indeed grateful for being given this opportunity to present to you my experience of Mongolia, which has been extremely good. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Welcome.